Hello, can you hear me?
Hello everyone. I hope I'm audible. Can I just get a confirmation from anyone?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I, Abhiratna Jha, on behalf of LEDX, would like to welcome you all to this free workshop on navigating your career path in corporate law. LEDX is a legal education platform where technology meets education. We recognize the importance of knowledge, education, and employment. LEDX is an innovative legal education venture that bridges the gap between legal learning and the profession. Backed by years of experience, we bring certified expertise to every corner of the country. So, moving further, I would like to welcome Dr. Krati Rajoria, an esteemed expert in corporate law and an associate professor at NLIU Bhopal. Dr. Rajoria brings a wealth of experience and passion for legal excellence to our workshop today. With a distinguished academic background and a prolific contribution to legal scholarship, she is here to share some invaluable insights with us. Thank you for joining us today, ma'am, with us.
Am
Over
I
to you,
audible
ma'am.
and visible?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much. Before I begin with the session, I would like to thank CLEDX for providing me this opportunity to interact with the students here. I can see a number of participants have joined. So before I begin with the session, I'll just give you an overview of how I plan to go about the entire session. So this is what I have planned. That since the title is about it is how corporate in corporate law you can plan your career and what are the career opportunities that you can explore. I was thinking that first I'll talk about the scope and ambit of corporate law, and then I feel that a lot of people are confused between the difference between corporate law and business law. So I'll highlight the difference between corporate law and business law, how are the two interrelated, and what kind of career opportunities you have there. And then I'm also planning to cover the areas where the corporate lawyers can work, the kind of work jobs they do, and also the practice areas, as in what are the fields where corporate lawyers can work. And at the end, I will be highlighting that how you can work on your CV and what are the things that you need to add to your CV in order to make it attractive to recruiters. So I'll just begin with the scope of corporate law. So when we talk about the scope of corporate law, we know that it is one field or one sector which is continuously growing, and even in India's GDP, more than 50% of the contribution comes from the corporate sector. So of course, there is no doubt that when we talk about the career or the jobs that we have in the corporate sector, it is gradually growing day by day, and there are a number of young aspirants who are looking forward to some kind of job opportunity, or there are different professions in the corporate sector that people can join. So when we talk about the objective of corporate law, since it is related to the term corporate, we need to understand that what are the corporations that are there. So there are different forms of business organizations. I'm sure some of you, since some of you are students of maybe law or from commerce background, you are some to some extent aware of the different corporations or the forms of business organizations that are there. And but I'm trying to connect the different forms of business kind of business opportunities, or with the kind of career opportunities that you can avail in those different forms of business organizations. So we have, or you can divide corporations or business organizations into five categories. But before I come to that, I would like to briefly highlight the difference between corporate law and business law, because a number of times we feel confused that maybe corporate law and business law, they are the same thing. They are to some extent when we talk about the career opportunities, but as a student, when you're studying subjects, there is a lot of difference. So business law is something that deals with the fundamental legalities that are required for an organization's foundation. Whereas when we talk about corporate law is something that lays emphasis on the operations, the activities, and the validity of an organization. Because you can also see the difference, no? Corporate law is the laws that govern the the establishment of any corporation. Say, for example, if we talk about Companies Act is a corporate law. But how a company is going to do business, that is about business law. Say, for example, a company is going for a merger or is planning to establish a joint venture with some other company, then that is part of business law. So the laws that you study for corporate law and for business law, they are entirely different. How you incorporate a corporation or how you incorporate any form of business organization, that is part of corporate law. And how those corporations or how those business organizations carry on their business, that is part of business law. I hope by now all of you must have followed the difference between corporate law and business law. And I will also be more than happy to take questions even during the session. You can post your questions in the chat box, and maybe at the end of the session, I will respond to all the questions. So now coming to the different forms of business organization. So there is one basic form of business organization, is sole proprietorship, wherein you don't need any kind of legal formalities to establish your business. You just maybe you need to open a current bank account with the bank because there are going to be frequent transactions, is why you need to open a bank account. The savings account will not work. And for establishment of sole proprietorship, it is not necessary that as a businessman I will require services of some professional. But even sole proprietors who are carrying on business on a very large scale or on a big level, they need to avail services of some professionals. Say, for example, I would require some legal advisor. If suppose there is some dispute or maybe there is some breach of contract, I will get in touch with some corporate lawyer who will help me in determining the scope of that contract that I've entered into with the party. Or with respect to GST, so for establishment of sole proprietorship, you don't need, for the corporate law aspect, you don't need any professional service. But from the business law aspect, for sole proprietorship also, you need to avail services of some professionals. Say, for example, for the purpose of GST, I need to get in touch with some taxation lawyer who's going to help me with that. Now, another evolved form of doing business is partnership. So when you're registering a partnership for your business, it is, I hope you understand the difference between sole proprietorship and partnership. For sole proprietorship, there is just one person that is required. Whereas in case of partnership firm, there are two or more than two individuals who come together and they do business. And partnership is based on an agreement. So for the purpose of drafting an agreement, you need to avail services of professionals. Even individuals can do it if you are well versed with the kind of business that you're doing. But when it comes to partnership firms which are doing business on a large scale, how you draft that agreement, it is very technical, because in case there is breach of any of the clauses in that agreement, you go for litigation. In that case, any clause can't be ambiguous or misleading, is why you need to avail services of people who are into drafting of contracts. Then after partnership, there is limited liability partnership. Limited liability partnership is a combination of company and partnership, because in case of partnership, you can of course get your partnership registered. There is no restriction as such that you can't do business in the form of partnership without getting it registered. But registration is always suggested so that you can enforce your rights legally. But when you get partnership form registered, and when we talk about the evolved version of a partnership firm, LLP is one form which I think a number of law firms are registered as limited liability partnership. Because when you register your business in the form of LLP, I told you that it is a combination of partnership and company. Because in case of partnership, the liability of the people who are members of that business, the partners of that business, it is unlimited. I will be liable for the faults of one of my partners in the partnership firm, and whatever my partner does, the third parties will be able to sue me for the wrongs done by my partner. Whereas in case of company, if I'm a member of a company, whatever is my liability, it is only limited to the extent of my contribution in the company's business. Say, for example, I've contributed, say, 1,000 rupees in my company's business. 1,000 rupees is a very small example. It is generally investment in lakhs or crores. But I'm just giving an example. So if you contribute, say, 1,000 rupees, my liability as a member is only limited to the extent of 1,000 rupees. So LLP is a combination of partnership and company, because there are two designated partners, their liability is limited, and the rest of the partners, their liability is limited, and the liability of two designated partners is unlimited, the way it is there in case of partnership form. So when you're doing business in the form of LLP, you you need to hire a number of professionals who are in the corporate sector. The reason is, say for example, I'll give you example of a law firm. So in case of law firm, they register themselves as LLP and the kind of services that they provide, and even for their incorporation. So LLP is a separate legal entity. For incorporation of LLP, you will not be able to do it without availing services of some professional, because you need to draft LLP agreement and get it registered. So registration of LLP is compulsory, whereas registration of partnership is not compulsory. Then coming to company, for registration of company, there is a lengthy procedure. You will never be able to do it without professionals. So there are company secretaries, there are chartered accountants, cost accountants, and also legal advisors. So these are the different professions which are part of this corporate sector, who are, and these professionals are required for the purpose of incorporation of company, because when you're incorporating a company, you need to draft articles of association, memorandum of association. You will not be able to do it even if there are two individuals who are planning to register a company. Drafting these documents is difficult. Only a professional who is trained in that area will be able to do it. And you can't get a company incorporated without the help of a company secretary, because while incorporation of company, there are signatures on each document of company secretary that are required to be attached. And your company is also going to have some fund. You will be raising capital for doing business, and how you're going to manage that fund. For all of these things, there are professionals who are going to help you. There are going to be cost accountants, chartered accountants, and there are several other professions which I'll be covering in the later portion of my session. That how a company or a corporation does business, that is very complicated, and you need to be aware of a number of legislations or a number of guidelines that are there, without which you will not be able to excel in the corporate sector. And the fifth form of business organization is a corporation. So when we see the difference between a company and a corporation, a number of times we use these terms interchangeably. Company, corporation, it means the same. But there is a lot of difference, because when you read the Companies Act, Section 2, Subsection 20 and Section 2, Subsection 11, both the sections provide difference between a company and a corporation, because companies are only companies for India which are registered under the Companies Act. And corporations are, say for example, Apple is a corporation for us because it is a company which is not registered in India, it is registered outside India. But at times corporations, if suppose there is a foreign entity which is doing business in India, they will not be able to do it without seeking the professional assistance of professionals who are registered in India, raising capital, investing, doing business, coming up with office in India. For all of that, you need to help. You will, because you are not aware of the laws or legislations of the other countries, why even foreign companies, corporations require that kind of assistance. But when we talk about the term corporation, corporation does not include just foreign entities. It also includes companies or businesses which are registered in India, but which are not registered under the Companies Act. Say, for example, cooperative societies which are registered under the Cooperative Societies Act. Amul is one such example. Then Indian Coffee House is another example. And then registered societies which are registered under the Societies Registration Act or the Cooperative Societies Act. These are also corporations because they have separate legal entity, but we can't call them company. So registration of company and registration of these forms of business organizations, the procedure is entirely different, and one will not be able to do it without seeking help from professionals. So based on this, that I have given you an idea of where do corporate lawyers work. These are the 5 categories where corporate lawyers can work based on the nature of the business organization that they're associated with. Not just that, I further tried to classify it. So when we talk about places where corporate lawyers or professionals in the corporate sector can work, the first obvious example that comes to our mind is law firms. Because now law firms is something which is for a law student, that is the first option, especially when we talk about the national universities or even a lot of private universities. There was a survey conducted in the last few years. About 75% of the students of law, they prefer to go to corporate firms, because maybe the reason is the pay scale. They can learn well, and they can also earn well during the initial years of their career. which is not so when they go for litigation. But although corporate litigation is also one such option, but compared to litigation, the traditional litigation and law firms pay well to young professionals is the reason why a number of law aspirants prefer to go and work with law firms and the kind of work that these law firms do. So each law firm, I'm not going to give example of any law firm because I will not be promoting any law firm, but I'm sure law students are aware of what all good law firms are there. So a number of law firms are there which have, so based on their area of specialization, there are different law firms working in, say, mergers and acquisition, drafting of contracts, joint venture agreement drafting, and they have IPR wing as well. They have litigation wing. So different law firms, especially big law firms, they have different segments where different corporate lawyers work. These corporate lawyers, they give all kinds of legal advice, drafting of agreements, and also with respect to the labor. That if there is some corporation which is seeking advice from this law firm, how do they handle their labor or their workforce? With respect to that as well, the corporate lawyers provide assistance to their clients. Then there is corporate litigation. So in case of corporate litigation, there a number of lawyers go for corporate litigation because it involves a number of cases with respect to tort and contract related issues, and there are other legal problems as well which are dealt by the corporate lawyers who are into corporate litigation. The broad classification of kind of issues that they deal with, you can say they deal with deceptive or fraud practices or employer and employee disputes. So all the labor laws will be covered in this. Violation of contract, which is governed by the Indian Contract Act 1872. And then corporate litigation is not just about these. So you go to traditional courts, but recently, I don't know if it is recent or not. It was in the year 2015. So for me, it is a little recent only, although it has been 9 years. So the government has come up with new courts which are commercial. So a number of now established, and the commercial courts are established in Delhi. I think there are around 35 courts established in Delhi. There are courts in Mumbai. There are courts in Calcutta and also Bangalore. So a number of commercial courts after the 2015 Act have come into picture. They were enforced in 2018, and the purpose of these commercial courts is to deal with all commercial matters. So now there is a difference between commercial law, corporate law, and business law. Commercial matters are transactions which relate to commerce. So if you have a LLB degree and you want to go for litigation, you can practice in commercial courts, but there is a little limited scope because not all the cities have commercial courts. But this is one option that you have, like you can go for litigation in commercial courts. Not just commercial courts, even the traditional courts also deal with some corporate. So say for example, there is a breach of contract, you can go to the ordinary court for that. Or say for example, there is with respect to arbitration. So for arbitration also, there is Arbitration and Conciliation Act, which talks about appointment of arbitrator and how through mediation and conciliation the corporate disputes can be resolved. So you can, so the different high courts, they conduct 40 hours of courses for mediation. So once you have done that course, you will be a qualified mediator and you can mediate corporate disputes. So it is not just traditional litigation. You can go for these options as well. Then NCLTs, we have 15 benches of NCLT all over India. So when there is a company related matter specifically, not just Companies Act related matter, but even the SARFAESI, Securitization, Deconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act. So when there is a debt related dispute, for that when you want to approach the courts, with respect to all the company cases, NCLT is the tribunal which has jurisdiction. So a number of lawyers are also practicing in NCLT and they are dealing with all company related matters. Then in case of corporate litigation, you can work as in-house counsel. So the working in in-house counsel, in that case, you can associate with a law firm or you can come up with your own law firm as well. That is also one of the options. First of all, when we talk about in-house lawyers, they have only one client. Say for example, you will be associated with just one company and you will be providing your services only for that company, because a number of companies, they have legal advisors. So you can work as a legal advisor for some company there is one thing that CLAT. So when students appear for PG CLAT, common law admission test for PG courses once they have done their graduation or LLB. Now, when I was a student way back in 2011. When I appeared in CLAT, there was this requirement that all of these public sector organizations, they were asking for 2 years of experience. But I appeared in CLAT right after my graduation, is why I was not able to get a job in a with a public sector organization because I was a fresher and they were asking for 2 years of experience. But based on their ranking, my rank was second all India rank. But based on rank, they used to appoint in-house councils for, say, for example, there is Indian Oil Corporation of India. So all of these public sector organizations, they collaborate with CLAT PG, and whoever gets the highest score. Now they've done away with this requirement of experience as well. Earlier they were asking for 2 years of experience. Now they don't ask for any kind of experience. So when you have your LLB degree and you appear in CLAT PG and you get a decent rank, you can apply to these public sector organizations which have a collaboration with CLAT, and you can be appointed as their in-house counsel. So I think that is a very good career option, but they do have some kind of lock-in period of 3 years or 5 years. But somebody who's willing to do a job for throughout their life, I think that is not a problem for them. And you can join as in-house counsel of these public sector organizations, and it is a government job, which is, I think, a very good career opportunity. Then there are a number of regulatory bodies which come up with advertisements if they want to hire corporate lawyers. Say, for example, SEBI is one such organization, then Reserve Bank of India, Competition Commission of India, Insurance IRD, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, then Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. All of these regulatory bodies, sectoral market regulators, they come up with different career opportunities for their different departments. Because say, for example, if SEBI is investigating a case, SEBI will not be able to do it unless there is proper investigation done. And who does that investigation? That entire investigation is done by lawyers or people who are the legal team of SEBI. So with respect to legal affairs, commodities, litigation, all of surveillance, all of that, there are different positions that these regulatory bodies will come up with advertisements for that. You write their exam and you will be able to qualify. I mean, if you prepare for it, you will be able to qualify that. Now coming to the types of corporate lawyer. So when we talk about different types of corporate lawyer, there is civil litigation lawyers. Civil litigation lawyers are involved in property related disputes or contract property. These are civil matters. So you can work as a lawyer for that. And then there are legal analysts. Legal analysts are the people who provide research related support to maybe law firms. So this is open to any organization. So if you're a legal analyst, your job is to maintain data, go for legal research, and then provide any kind of research, compile it, and provide it to that organization which needs your assistance or help. Then there are document drafting lawyers. Document drafting lawyers are, I just gave you example of company related matters. So with respect to preparation of MOA, AOA, but then that is not just done by document drafting lawyers, because for companies and corporation, you need to seek assistance of company secretaries as well. So these document drafting lawyers, they are professionals who deal in not just civil matters, not just legal proceedings, but they're also involved in criminal related issues, and they help their client in dealing with all the legal proceedings that their clients come across. Then one more profession, which is I think a very good option, is legal journalist. Because when it comes to reporting of legal news, it is not done by ordinary journalists, because ordinary journalists, they don't have much knowledge of law. And at times I have seen, I will not name the newspaper, but in a number of newspapers, I have seen news being reported wrongly. Say, for example, I recently came across, I'm not naming the newspaper, but I came across a news article where it was mentioned that Taylor Swift got her lyrics patented. You can't patent lyrics, you need to copyright it. So had they appointed some legal journalist, that newspaper would not have published wrong news. So for that, good newspapers, they always appoint legal journalists for the purpose of reporting legal matters or legal news. So you need to have an LLB degree for that, plus mass communication degree, because without that, you will not be appointed as a journalist. Then there are legal advisors. This aspect I have already covered. So this is the classification of the kinds of corporate lawyers that are there. Now coming to the practice area. So I know I've just, you must be feeling that I've just focused on the law aspect, but I'll come up with different career options for anybody who want to work in the corporate sector, because even at times even law students, they switch their field and they, after LLB degree, they go for MBA. And I have taught some of the corporate law subjects or legal subjects to students of BCom and BBA and also MBA. MBA students also have business legislation as a part of their syllabus. So there are a number of areas with respect to corporate law where you can work, whether you have a law degree or you do not have a law degree. But I would suggest if you have a law degree, then maybe I think the way you think that changes. And maybe I'm saying so because I have a law degree, but then I feel that if you've studied law, how you think about things and how you analyze things, that law has a great impact on that. Now, coming to the areas with respect to corporate law, what all areas you can explore. So the first option is corporate restructuring. Corporate restructuring is very wide. The kind of laws that you need to study for this is so corporate restructuring is about restructuring of debt. RBI provides for a mechanism for restructuring of debt. So you need to go through the RBI guidelines. So RBI has recently come up with corporate debt restructuring guidelines. If you've done, you will be able to render your advice to corporations who want to go for any kind of restructuring. So restructuring, there are two reasons why any business will go for restructuring. One is that maybe my business is not doing well. I want to improve my business. Or the second reason is that my business is doing well, but I want to widen the scope of my business. Only for these two reasons, any corporation will go for corporate restructuring. So when we talk about corporate restructuring, there is internal restructuring, which means within the organization, I will not seek any outside help. And then there is external restructuring where my company will need outside help. So when there is internal restructuring, my company can go for buyback of shares or changing of share capital. Or if my company has borrowed a lot of loans, restructuring of debt is one such option. So for this, how your company goes for corporate restructuring, you should go through section 230 till section 240 of the Companies Act. Once you know the basic law that how corporate restructuring works, then you can further train yourself in different specialized fields. So once you've gone through these sections of the Companies Act, you know that these are the options available to a company for corporate restructuring. And then you can read the RBI guidelines for corporate debt restructuring. Then then there are different ways of restructuring. You can go for merger acquisition. For that, SEBI substantial acquisition of shares and takeover regulations 2011. That is the law that is in force in India with respect to merger and acquisition. So merger and acquisition is in itself such a wide field where you can practice as a merger and acquisition lawyer, because when two companies merge, there are so many hurdles that these companies face. There are post-merger integration issues, how you carry out due diligence for merger of companies, because there are a number of airlines or banking sector companies that merge, and then later on their employees or the business suffer. So for that, there is so these are the services that are generally provided by law firms. So there is a team of experts who work for merger and acquisition. They prepare due diligence report, how the valuation of assets should be done, what kind of assets should be transferred, how a merger should be financed, through what mode money can be raised. So all of those portions, and what assets, what portion of the sale should become effective on what date, what are the post-merger integration issues, how are we going to deal with the employees of the company, will the company run with the same name after merger, which business has a famous name that should survive. All of these things are decided by legal professionals who are experts. Say, for example, when there is a merger of Vodafone and Idea, we've seen that they've merged the name VI of the new entity. Which company merged into the other entity, the general public has no idea about it. Whichever name is famous, a number of times the companies prefer to retain the name which is famous. Because when Godrej soaps merged with Godrej, they retained the name Godrej and not Godrej soaps and not General Godrej, because Godrej soaps was a more famous company. Then drafting of non-compete agreement. Now, with respect to drafting of agreement, this is in itself a separate area. I just told you that in drafting of agreement, there are clauses that are supposed to be added. So if there is a contract between two companies and you come up with arbitration clause, how that arbitration, if there is a dispute between organizations, how we are going to deal with um, those disputes, who will be the arbitrator, who will be the mediator in case we are planning to go for mediation. So these are in itself, each of these streams, they provide for several professionals and several career options for people who are into corporate sector. Then when there is a merger, you merge intellectual property as well. So intellectual property is in itself a separate scheme. So I'm only covering mergers and acquisition aspect of intellectual property, but separately I will be talking about IPR as a field for people who want to get into corporate sector. So I have covered merger acquisition or corporate restructuring. Then there comes insolvency and bankruptcy. Now this is one new area that has come up. After the 2016 code, insolvency and bankruptcy code, there are a number of professionals who are going for this area. You can work as a bankruptcy attorney. But for that, you need to have some basic degree, either BCom, BBA, or LLB. And then there is a course which is provided by earlier, even our university was, there were only two institutes in India which were providing it. One was our institute, NLIU Bhopal, and the other is IICA. Now it is only IICA, Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, which is providing this course. You enroll for the GIP course. It is Graduate Insolvency Program. Once you enroll for that course, it is a, I think, roughly 1 year course. I think it is 10 months or 9 months course. And then you go for 9 months of internship. So total 18 months of duration of course. You enroll for that course and you will be eligible for appointment as insolvency resolution professional. Earlier, this was a requirement after the IBC code was introduced in 2016, that only advocates, chartered accountants and cost accountants and company secretaries who have 15 years of experience, they can act as bankruptcy attorney. But now even for freshers, people who are new and they're freshly graduated, for them IICA has launched a course. With this course, you can register yourself as insolvency resolution professional with IBBI, Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India. So insolvency and bankruptcy is a new segment, and with this idea of ease of doing business, I think Indian government is making a lot of efforts to ensure that there is no overheaping of non-performing assets. With respect to that, all the corporations that borrow loans and then they commit fraud, like Yes Bank and Punjab National Bank, there were a number of frauds which were committed and they become bankrupt and don't pay their creditors. To resolve that issue, government is making a lot of efforts. There are liquidators, is one such profession. Earlier, there were official receivers who were attached with the High Court, but now there are insolvency resolution professionals who are trained professionals to deal with insolvency related matters, not just here for IBC, but even under RFAZ. Debt recovery tribunal also, if it is a company related matter, under debt recovery tribunals also you can practice as a debt recovery professional. Then there is financing. So financing or refinancing is also one area where corporate lawyers or corporate professionals, they can help corporations. Because if suppose my company or my business wants to raise capital, how do I do it? What are the sources through which I can take financial assistance? For that, what are the good options and what sources I should opt for? For that, there are professionals who render these kind of services to these corporations or companies. So financing as well as refinancing. There are investment banks which assist investment. There are stockbrokers, merchant bankers, all the sectoral market intermediaries which are registered with SEBI. I think that is a very good career option. You need not have law degree for that. It is not necessary. You have basic law degree. You can go through the website of SEBI and see the requirements that are there for these professionals. And if you feel that you will be able to help any corporation in raising capital from the market, you can do it. But you need to have basic knowledge of some laws. One is SEBI listing obligation and disclosure requirements, which is necessary for public companies which are publicly listed. Public companies are those which raise capital from the general public. So all the public companies are subject to all the SEBI regulations. There are some 15, 20 SEBI regulations that these companies are subject to. But even in case of private companies, I think private companies also, they also need councils, and they also need to raise capital. How they do it is entirely different from public companies. But in case of there is a little disturbance. Can you please mute your mic? So in case of private companies, also there is a need for raising capital. How do you do it? You do it through information memorandum. So you file information memorandum, but even in that case, also you need to seek help of professionals. Say, for example, company secretary, legal advisors, chartered accountants. So these are, I think, very good options that helping private companies register themselves and also helping public companies to register themselves. And then there are startups. So Ministry of this MSME, Medium, Small and Micro Enterprises Act of 2006, they have upwardly revised the scope of these companies. They've come up with a definition of startup. So how a startup can avail different facilities. There are a number of NGOs, such as India SME Forum is one such NGO, which provides advice to startups, because startups are businesses which are, so they can register themselves in any form. But how do they begin their business? For that, they need to seek advice from corporate lawyers. How do they approach investment bankers and venture capitalists for their business, for seed money or seed funding? So there are SEBI alternative investment fund regulations. There are 3 kinds of funds given there, in which fund you should invest money and through which fund you should raise money. All of those options, only somebody who is well versed with that area, they can provide those suggestions. Then with respect to corporate litigation, there are so many segments. So there are corporate litigation that he or she performs. One is ensuring compliance with all kind of laws, anti-discrimination laws or wage-related laws with respect to labor, so that you can avoid labor disputes. Then defending companies against wrongful termination suits, securing compliance with new accounting and governance, corporate governance regulations. Then there is litigation on mediating shareholder derivative lawsuits. Then there is managing corporate tax compliance as well. So there are 2 things. There is avoidance of tax and evasion of tax. Evasion of tax is it is not allowed, but avoidance of tax is allowed within the legal limit. So for that, there are taxation lawyers who can provide you this service. You need to know the details of Income Tax Act 1961 and other tax laws. So if you need to choose the field in which you are interested. Then there are breach of contract issues with respect to businesses. So you can help businesses either defending or prosecuting for breach of contract. There are tort issues, and then contracts with respect to real estate issues. So real estate is also one such area where you can provide your services. There are real estate lawyers, especially after the RERA Act came into picture. There is a new stream of professionals who are specialized in this area, and I think India has the largest real estate funds, and there are a number of companies which are investing here with respect to investments, joint ventures, property acquisition, sales, and leases. So a number of lawyers who are well versed with the range of real estate structures. Then I think once you're well versed, you will be able to establish yourself in the real estate. Then state, there is the intellectual property rights. Intellectual property rights in itself has a number of options. So you can enroll yourself as a patent attorney, but for that you need to have a science degree plus LLB. Then only you will be able to write the patent attorney exam. Then if there are businesses who are not well versed, not just businesses, even individuals, if they do not know how to file for IPR, if you are an IP lawyer, you can help them in registering their copyright, designs, trademark, geographical indication for people who are into geographical indications which are not recognized. And there are a number of pharma companies, or there are a number of companies which are coming up with new inventions. So they do not know how to file for a patent. So without any kind of professional assistance, filing of patents is just not possible, because you need to come up with complete specification filing. How do you defend your claim? For all of that, and even registration of trademarks. So if you are an IP lawyer, you can help businesses or people who are into innovation. That how do you get your intellectual property protected, and how, if there is infringement of your intellectual property, if there is a intellectual theft, how do you defend your case? So IP lawyers have to also litigate in matters of intellectual property, and they need to represent clients in court. Some IP lawyers, they also specialize in particular fields such as biotechnology, pharmaceutical, computer engineering, nanotechnology, internet, e-commerce. So you can choose your field and accordingly provide services with respect to that. Another area where corporate lawyers work is banking and finance. There is syndicate lending, there is restructuring of debts, leveraged finance. There are a number of projects, acquisition of finance. So banking investment lawyers or all the banking services. So the customers of these banking and finance related services are multinational corporations, non-banking financial institutions, NBFCs, public, private sector banks, and any financial institution. Banks are not only financial institutions, there are other financial institutions as well who are rendering financial assistance to different businesses or even individuals. So you can, once you are specialized in that field, you can get involved in the banking as well as finance sector. Then there is international capital market as well. In case of international capital market, if there is a foreign company it wants to invest in India, you can provide your services as underwriter, foreign institutional investor, or venture capitalist, asset management companies, or you can, as a client, these are the services that they would be expecting from you. Initial public offering, or they can even ask for private placement, qualified institutional placement, foreign currency convertible bonds, or if they want to raise capital through global depository receipts. All high value transactions are part of international capital markets, and you can render your of these sectors. Then there is private equity, venture capital transactions. So these are some areas where corporate lawyers or corporate professionals work. So if you're working as, if you want to build up your CV, so this is the last segment of my session, that how do you prepare your CV as a fresher? Or if, and also as if you are already in that field for quite some time, what are the things that you need to add to your CV so that you can navigate your career path in the corporate sector? So the first thing that you need to focus on, this is what I did in my CV. It is not there in my CV anymore because I am a professional for the last few years. But initially I always came up with a objective statement. I made sure that about 50 to 200 lines or a short paragraph about who I am and how my recruiter should recruit me. That statement of purpose or statement of objective of my entire CV should be there. So it should cover three main things. One is that who exactly you are. It is not about what degree or what is your age, not your personal details, but who you are. So I'll give you my example. In my CV, I included that I want to build up my career as a proficient academician. Was this opening statement. So you need to highlight who you are. You are I say, for example, I'm a teacher at heart is what I mentioned, and that is what I wanted to do. How you can benefit that company is another thing that you can include. And third thing is that what is your career goal? Where do you see yourself 10 years down the line, or after 5 years? Where do you see yourself? You need not state it clearly, but you can indicate that I want to build up my career as so and so that I can establish myself in the market as a venture capitalist or whatever profession you want to opt for. You need to indicate your skills, job description. So there are different formats based on the kind of job that you're applying for, in which you can prepare your CV. But I would suggest that the statement of objective or statement of purpose should be the opening sentence. Next thing is that you need to optimize your experience section. You will only be able to do it, so you can't write things which you've not done in your CV. So you need to put in efforts in real life to make sure that you can include certain set of skills in your curriculum vitae or in your resume. So your experience section provides hiring managers with detailed information about your responsibilities, that these were the people that I worked with and these are the responsibilities that I was assigned. What were my accomplishments in discharging those responsibilities, the skill sets that I developed while doing that job. Then you should always list your employers in reverse chronological order. That is also important, so that some people who are recruiting you, they know that this is your latest skill that you've developed, and because it is fresh in your memory, you will be able to do well in that field. You should include position titles, the company name that you worked with, employment dates also should be clearly mentioned, the locations that you worked at, and then important positions that you handled and which are related to the job that you are pursuing that you should highlight. You should also include your software knowledge. This is, I think, this everybody includes their in their CV. What are your computer skills? What are the softwares that you can work with? Maybe MS Office, or based on the kind of job that you're applying for, you should mention the kind of skills that you have with respect to dealing with different softwares or your basic computer knowledge. Then, how do you get that kind of extra edge for excelling in the corporate sector or the corporate law? One thing is that you need to seek exposure. You will only be able to do it once you go for, so directly you can't get a job, but you need to go for internship so that you can develop your skills. Internship is as good as a job. Do not expect a very high stipend during internships, even if you have nothing to write in your CV and your internship is not paying you anything, I would suggest you go for it so that you would at least have something to write in your CV. Then you also need to stay updated based on the kind of job that you are seeking. You need to keep yourself updated with respect to all the laws that are relevant to your field or profession, or any subject that you feel is relevant for your for the jobs that you are applying. You should get a LinkedIn account, and you create a profile on maybe Naukri.com, Monster, Shine.com. There are a number of options that are there, so that you will know that what is there in the market, what is prevailing, what are different individuals that you're connected with, what are they doing, and what are things that you need to do. So once you have a profile on these professional platforms, it will be easier for you to see what several individuals are doing. You can connect with like-minded people, and then and there are a number of job opportunities or internship opportunities which are available on these websites. So you can do that as well. Third thing is that you need to also gather recommendations. You will only be able to do it once you worked with your seniors or your guys, your supervisors during your internship, or maybe your teachers. So once you've gathered your recommendation, you need to include that in your CV. I think 2 recommendations are more than enough. You mentioned that, and always gather recommendations from people who will speak good for you, because at times when you apply for a job, they receive a phone call or maybe an email asking for what kind of student you are or what kind of professional you were while you were working with them. So only gather recommendation from people who are in your good books. No, it is the other way around. That if you are in their good books, you uh, gather recommendation from them. And then last but not the least, what you can do is you can do as many corporate related courses that you come across, maybe online or offline, because there are a number of websites and there are a number of institutes which are offering credit as well as non-credit courses. So based on your interest, you can apply for these different kinds. There are a number of free courses as well that are available. And if there are some courses which charge minimum fee or decent fee, I think you can enroll for that so that you will have something to write in your CV. And it is not just about writing in your CV, you will also be able to learn something new and also demonstrate it while you are working. So I think these are some points that I wanted to cover. I hope I have covered all the aspects. There are a number of messages that I can see in the chat window. So you can, I'm open to questions now. I'm done with whatever I had to say. You can ask me questions.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, for the IBC, to write that exam is necessary to have a 10-year experience.
No, earlier it was necessary that IBB, Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India, had provided for this requirement that if you are a cost accountant, chartered accountant, company secretary, or a lawyer, so you were required to have these degrees plus 15 years of experience. Now they have done away with this requirement because it was not providing any opportunity to freshers. So they've come up with a course. It is GIP course, Graduate Insolvency Program, which is offered by IICA Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. You enroll in that course. Once you get through the course, so there are different subjects which are necessary for the GIP course. They teach that course. You go for 9 months of internship, and then you are ready as a professional. And IRP, insolvency resolution professionals, are also paid very well.
Somebody was telling that MBA is also included in this. MBA
What?
plus 10,
Sorry?
MBA plus 10-year experience. Is it
No,
so?
earlier that was the requirement. Earlier that was the requirement. Now there you can go to the website of IICA. You will find the details of the GIP program. So you need to have some professional degree, and then you it here so that it will be clear to you. IICA website, it provides for GIP program. I'm not able to send a message. I don't know why.
Thank you, madam.
It is IICA GIP, Graduate Insolvency Program. Any other question? There are a lot of questions in the chat box. I'll go through each question one by one. Give me a minute.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes. Good
Ma'am,
afternoon.
could you please briefly explain the difference between the business law and corporate law?
Yes, of course. I did it in the beginning, but I think you may have missed it. So business law is corporate law. So from the name itself, you will be able to figure it out. Corporate law is how corporations are incorporated, and it is related to corporations. Say, for example, registered societies, cooperative societies, limited liability partnership, and company. So all the legislations that deal with these corporate entities, that is part of corporate law, and how these entities do business, that is part of business law. If you will read it on the internet, maybe you will find a number of answers and they will give different, because on the internet there are a number of overlapping answers that are given, but from the name we can figure out the difference between business and corporate law. So how these corporations do business, that is part of business law. Say, for example, Indian Contract Act or Sales of Goods Act or Maritime Law, all of this is part of business law.
Commercial and
goods.
business law are same.
Sorry?
Commercial and business law are same.
Commercial law is the umbrella term. So commercial law is anything that relates to commerce. So corporate law and business law, or both of these are covered under commercial law.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
May I ask a question? Is there any pre-requirement to get a science degree? Because if anyone want to pursue IP law right after graduation, getting BLLB, is it possible, or after
See, I have
practice
seen a lot.
few years?
No, listen. So I have seen a lot of people who are just holding LLB degree. That is more than enough to practice in IP. But if you want to actually specialize, then you can go for IP specialization in your LLM. So now LLM in India is just a 1-year course. You can go for LLM in intellectual property rights, so that you can specialize and you will be able to demonstrate it to your clients that you also hold a degree in that is why you are competent. But otherwise it is not mandatory or necessary as such.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes.
what is the difference between a legal counsel and a legal team working in a firm?
Legal counsel. So legal counsel, you are a legal counsel. If you are enrolled with the bar and you are practicing in the court, then you are a legal counsel. And if you are working for a dedicated company and that company has hired you and they have entered into an agreement with you that you will not be providing a service to anybody else, they are paying you a salary for that, then also you are a legal counsel. And people who are working in a law firm, you are doing their job. So if you are recruited by any law firm and you are working in a law firm in their as a legal counsel in their team, you can't provide your services to anybody else because you are in employment, and you can't even practice unless you can only practice if you are in the litigation wing of that law firm. So unless you are registered with the bar, you can practice. You are a legal counsel. You can practice anywhere.
Sorry,
But if
ma'am,
you're
not
working with a
legal
law firm,
counsel, in-house counsel.
then
in-house counsel?
In-house, okay. In-house counsel is when some company hires you. That is in-house counsel. That you are only you will only be working for that company. You will not be working for anybody else. Then you are an
Ma'am,
in-house counsel.
legal team in a firm is also working for a firm only. Then what is the
Then
difference?
they are in-house counsel. They are in-house counsel. So when you're working for a dedicated organization, then you are in-house counsel. But generally, when we use this term, we use it for legal. We use it for legal counsels who are working for a dedicated company.
Thank you, ma'am.
See,
Good
these are
afternoon,
not
ma'am.
technical terms. That these are not defined anywhere as such. These are terms, market terms used by people who are in the profession. Legal counsel, in-house counsel is somebody who's working in-house in my organization.
Ma'am,
There
is
has to be
there
for
any
in-house counsel, there has to be an agreement between two parties that you will be working just for our team or just for our company. Then you are called in-house counsel.
ma'am, there are certain firms where we see associate working as a lawyer in a firm for a corporate team. But there are
Right.
company we see in-house counsel are working. So what is the main line between the associate and an in-house counsel working for a company? Both are working for a firm and a company. Both have the agreement. Then what are the basic difference between these two?
Right. I'll explain it to you. So suppose I'm working for some company which is into the manufacturing of fans, maybe, or Havells. I'm working for Havells. So if Havells enters into an agreement with me, there is a contract between both of us that I'm in-house legal counsel for Havells. So all the companies have their legal teams, and if there is an agreement between both of us, I will be handling their contracts. Whereas if I'm working as a legal counsel for a law firm so law firm is not my client. That is the difference. So if I'm in-house counsel for some company, that company is my client and I will only be rendering my services to that company. But if I'm in the law firm, in that case, law firm will have several clients and the legal team of that law firm will be providing services to clients of the law firm. So most of the law firms are registered as limited liability partnerships. They are separate legal entities. They have their separate team of they have separate clients and the counsels who are working with the law firm, I'm appointed by that law firm as associate. Once I leave that organization and I join some other law firm, I will not have the same client. Did you follow it?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can we practice business law and corporate law at the same time?
Yes, of course. Even if you're working as a corporate lawyer, you can also work as a criminal or civil lawyer. If you go to small towns, the same lawyer handles all kinds of cases. But it is
Thank you,
only in
ma'am.
big cities that big clients they expect you to be expert in your field.
Thank you, ma'am. It was an insightful session.
Yeah, ma'am,
Um,
1 year
Thank you.
LLB course was derecognized by BCI, no? So still it is going on in India?
One
1 year
1 year LLB course?
LLM.
LLM. Yes, 1 year LLM is there. It is there in all law schools.
So is it
Only
recognized?
traditional universities are, yes, it is recognized. Only traditional universities are continuing with 2 years of LLM. Otherwise, all national universities and even private universities, they are offering 1 year LLM. It is very much recognized.
So
As of now, they were planning to scrap it off. Even if they do it, they will not be able to do it retrospectively. If you are awarded your degree, nobody is going to question it.
So will make eligible for PhD 1 year LLM?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I was doing my LLB in Delhi University in 2002, but then I got an opportunity for Singapore, so I was there for about 20 years. I recently came back, so I was wondering, is it possible that I can continue my third year in DU, or I can't? That's my question.
You will not be able to do that, unfortunately.
So I have to start from the beginning.
Yes, yes.
Hello, ma'am. This is Parag.
Yes.
Currently pursuing my BLLB third year from Pune University. I was wondering, there is so much scope currently in corporate law, but I'm a bit confused which field should I opt out. So how to identify these?
As a student, that my experience. So I was
Ma'am, your voice
and
is breaking.
I
No, ma'am.
It's breaking.
It's still breaking.
Uh, ma'am, try to reconnect your earphones or something. That might be.
What I join, I just
Ma'am, again it's breaking.
I
Ma'am, try reconnecting or removing the earphones. That might be causing an issue.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's audible. Okay. I think my earbuds they got discharged. All right. So I forgot the question. Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am. I was asking that how to opt out the difference, like which field should
All right.
be.
Yes, yes.
choose.
I'm able to recall the question. So when I'll share my experience. When I was doing my graduation in my third year, I was preparing for judiciary, and it was with this objective that I wanted to get into judiciary is why I opted for law. Otherwise, I was a science student. I was not a very brilliant student when I was in school. But when I pursued law, I felt that law was so easy. It is just common sense that you do. There are certain situations given, and this is how you're supposed to act in a given situation. So you and with that you just have to memorize certain sections. So when I was preparing for judiciary, I went for different kinds of internships. I did an internship in a law firm. I worked with an NGO. I was preparing for judiciary, so I during my internship, one of the internships in my fourth year, I also worked with a lawyer. I worked with a company secretary. So during my third and fourth year, I tried exploring all the fields, and so I will not share my experience in different organization because in that case I will end up disclosing a lot of things. But then it was during my internship that I realized that I don't want to do any of those things. And then in my fifth year I wrote CLAT exam and I got a very good rank. So when I during my LLM, and I did not write the judiciary examination during my LLM, I we were given these assignments of teaching. So this was my first hand experience at teaching. I was giving 6 hours of teaching assignment, and it was then that I realized that this is something that is meant for me and I want to get into academics. And then during my LLM, it was not during my graduation, but during my LLM, I decided that this is what I want to do. So I would suggest you the same thing. I can't tell you that what is the right option for you, because when I had friends, there are some people who are into judiciary, there are people who are working in law firms. So you need to decide what is right for you. I knew that I'm not meant for law firms because the working hours were they were 9 to 9, too much of work. I knew I am not going to do that. Litigation, going to the court, and the environment of the court I did not like, so I did not opt that as well. Judiciary also, the working environment, I did not find it very pleasing, is why I did not opt for that. But teaching was the easiest thing because I thought I just have to teach, I just have to convey the things that I already know to students. So I found it to be very easy. I enjoy doing what I'm doing right now. So you should also decide for yourself what you enjoy doing, so that whenever you're working you don't feel that you're working, and you don't, at the end of the day, once you're done with your job, you don't feel tired. So you will have to decide. You go for different internships, and then you decide what is that profession which is meant for you.
Is
Ma'am,
is it important to have a technological degree for patent law?
Yes, you should have a science background.
Science background. Well,
Yes.
can I do independent courses for computer science and get
No,
degrees for that?
That will not work. You should have a graduation in science, maybe engineering degree or some science degree, BSc or other things, then plus LLB. Then you can write the patent agent exam. But if it is just about, no, this is for patent attorney. But if it is some other kind of IP advice, you can do it. You can render such advice even with your LLB degree.
Okay,
Ma'am,
so
like
I have to have a science background.
like
Okay.
ma'am, I am
Yes, for
interested in
patent agent exam, just for that. Apart from patent agent, there are so many options in IPR. You can go for any of those things. You can work in trademarks, even patent also. You can work in patents as well. It is the patent attorney exam for that you need science degree.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, like I'm also interested in corporate law, but there are various law in corporate law itself. Like there are various commercial laws. So while
Right.
sitting for an interview, they ask for different laws, different corporate laws. But in a law school, we are only taught with company laws and with competition laws and no other than that. So, ma'am, how to tackle the interview?
There is a reason for that. A lot of my students ask this. I teach company law to the students. So, company law is the foundation law. Teachers can't cover everything in the class because there are a n number of corporate law subjects.
True,
So,
ma'am.
and even the interviewer is not going to ask you everything. I have appeared in what, like 18 interviews. I have qualified 17 of them. One interview I did not qualify. So, in the beginning of your interview, you will have to mention that this is my area. I'm well versed with this. But when you say so, you should actually be well versed with that area. So
Yes,
when
ma'am.
you're in the beginning of your interview, if you're highlighting and you're asserting that this is one area that you are well versed with, they will only be asking you questions from that area. So you can't read every corporate law subject. I teach corporate laws, but even I don't know what is happening in, say, SEBI has come up with some new amendment. I'm not updated with that. But
True,
when
ma'am.
I'm dealing with, you should know. So my teacher used to say that a good lawyer need not know all the laws, but you should know where to find the law. So you have some overview of all the laws, and you decide one specific area, maybe mergers and acquisition, or investment laws, or corporate financing. You choose your stream, and then you read everything about it because you can't know everything about everything, but you should know everything about something and something about everything is what I would say. थोड़ा थोड़ा सब कुछ सब चीज के बारे में you have keep information
Ma'am,
and
if
then
Ma'am,
yes.
if I mention that I am well versed with company law and no other than company law, then it would be problematic. Or do I need to identify a particular law also and then also have a knowledge about that law?
I would say that you keep yourself updated with company law and one specific area related to company law because company law also covers a number of aspects. Chapter 15 of Companies Act deals with mergers and acquisition. The last chapter deals with winding up. So you would identify one area, basic knowledge of company law, and identify one area that you know the details of. Maybe raising of capital for companies, you should be well versed with SEBI regulations. You can identify one area. Or you have some overview of all the laws, and then you can say when you are being interviewed, you can say that I'll read about it and I'm sure I will be able to deal with it. So once you give that kind of, you demonstrate that kind of confidence in your interview that even if I'm not aware of it, I will be able to learn about it and I am willing to learn, then I think you will go through all the interviews.
Thank you, ma'am. And ma'am, where can I connect you if I want to ask some personal questions?
That you can ask the organizers. They will share the details. I will share my email ID. You can write to me.
Okay,
Good
thank you, ma'am.
afternoon. I'm pursuing my fifth year of BB LLB program. So I'm very much interested in to get into corporate in IPR wing, and I'm without any links how to get into corporate as a fresher, ma'am. And what will the skills that the recruiter expect from us?
A lot of students feel that we need to have connections for recruitment. That is not true. You just work on your CV and you apply to different law. I'm sure you must be aware of the law firms where you can apply. There are tier 2, tier 1, tier 3 law firms. If you feel that your CV is not very good, you can apply to a good law firm but in a different city because different law firms have different offices. You can apply to their maybe tier 2 office. You can start from there, but your CV has to be strong. You should have participated in maybe moot court competitions. You should have a couple of publications. Once you've done that, then I am sure you need not have any connection. You will be able to get a job.
Directly we can apply through Naukri, LinkedIn, Indeed. Through that, will they hire us or?
I would suggest you create an account on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is very helpful. Like I come across vacancies on LinkedIn every other day.
Okay, ma'am. So, if really will internships help us to satisfy that year of experience criteria?
Yes,
Now,
yes.
currently,
Internships.
after
In our institute also, students 5th years they are placed already. 4th year, 5th year students they have pre-placement offer, and it is based on their internship.
okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Actually, ma'am, my question to you is that what role does a college play in a child's, in a student's, selection for any job? Because not being from a national law university, it has always been a major concern to me. If I would be, taken as a priority, for any recruiter. So, what do you, what would you say if like for students who are not from national law universities, do they have any chance to get a decent job as freshers?
Yes, I think college plays a very, very significant role, and I have experienced this in my last few jobs because I worked with the. I will not mention the organizations which were not able to find jobs with the for the students, but I worked with a private university as well, with a government university, and with I worked with two national universities. So this is what I have seen, that the national students are able to get jobs easily because they have a placement team and they are constantly trying to get their students placed. And I think it is also the name that works, but I think the only option that you're left with is you work on your CV. If you have a strong CV, then it does not make a lot of difference what background you come from. And I would suggest that you identify some firm or some organization with which you are planning to work in future. So if you perform well in your internships, then at times they provide placement offers to students who are doing well in their during their internship. But I do agree to this, that college plays a very significant role in your placement. And if you are not from some NLU, then it is going to be a little, I wouldn't say that it is very difficult. It is not, because I did my graduation from a traditional university, and then I did my master's from NLS Bangalore. So I think college, it does play a very important role, but you can still during your graduation, if you keep on working on your CV and you try getting good internships, you will be able to find a job.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the insightful question.
Hello, ma'am. I'm in the second year of 3 years LLB. I want to start with my internship, so I'm confused whether I should opt for the internships of corporate litigation or any in-house, all other fields other than the litigation. So, what would be the better field as a career path I should opt for starting
See,
with the internship?
there are a number of factors that you need to take into consideration. What location are you from?
Mumbai, Santa Cruz.
Then it is quite convenient for you. You can work with any law firm. Mumbai has a lot of law firms. You
Yes.
can
No,
start
no. My
company.
question is, should I go for corporate litigation, the internships for litigation? It is whether this is better or any other any other form other than litigation where we have to do all the drafting and research work. Which
See,
field is
this is
better?
something that I can't respond to. It depends on your interest. If you are somebody
Okay.
who wants a desk job, then you should go for agreement drafting and other things. But if you are somebody who wants to explore and you can socialize well, then you can go for corporate litigation.
And also, as a career path, does it in litigation we have to work very hard, then we reach a good pay position, or what is it?
This also varies from individual to individual, because I've seen people who are teachers and they never wanted to be teacher. It was only because they could not get any other job is why they became a teacher. So if that is the case with, so this varies from individual to individual, that if you like your job, then it is not, there is no hard work. And if you don't like the job, then everything is
Like
difficult.
many people say that in the case of litigation, you should have a legal background so that
Background. Yes,
yeah.
that is true to some extent, but once you've made your place, maybe if you worked for 3-4 years, then it is not difficult for you. Because initially, even I felt this, that I did not have any lawyer in my family. I will not be able to cope up with the pressure and other things. But I think that is not true, because I have seen some of my batchmates who are into litigation. They are doing well without any background.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Good.
I would be
Yes.
like doing LLM from Nalsar this year. So I was wondering, like, if I go for a general degree rather than the specialized degree, like in corporate
No,
law.
I would suggest that you go for specialization.
So, ma'am, so would it like affect me in the later on if I like later decide to go for corporate?
It does not. What specialization are you planning to go for?
Ma'am, I'm still considering like whether to do any specialization or should I just go for like general LLM.
See, this general LLM is a new thing. It was not there initially because LLM is supposed to be a specialization course. But it is just that maybe they want to attract more students. I am saying this on record. I should not be saying this. But then that is the reason they will come up with a new concept. Otherwise, LLM is supposed to be specialization. Your post graduation is your specialization course. So you decide whichever field you are interested in, and then you go for specialization.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My question is, if a student wants to do both MBA and LLM after 5 years integrated program, then what should he first go with, and what's the benefit of doing both?
No, I would not suggest you to go for both. Why would you go for both? Both the degrees have some. I mean, you go for MBA if you don't want to continue in strictly the legal field, then you go for MBA. But if you want to continue in the legal profession, go for LLM. Why both?
Ma'am,
Because you will end.
if I want to go in corporate, then should I go with MBA or LLM?
LLM.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
See, if you
Ma'am,
want to
how
continue
can
in the legal field, you go for LLM. But if you want to work in some other corporate sector not related to legal field, then you can go for MBA.
Ma'am, how can we attract assessment internship?
That depends on your college. I am sorry, I am being a little mean, but that your college, that is your institution's responsibility.
Ma'am, it's the college who play the whole role. Like, what about a CV and other criterias like research
No, your
paper?
CV is not in your CV is not in your college university's hand. Your CV, you work on your CV. Your college will not be able to go. Even if you are studying in a good college and you are not working on your CV, your college can't play a significant role.
Like, if I have a good CV, I have built my CV, and I don't have a good, I'm not belonging from an NLU. So would it be a problem for me to
No,
attract
it
the
will not.
placement?
It will not be.
And ma'am, if I have been got an internship in a tier one firm, then is there any negative impact that you haven't worked in some boutique firms or anything like that?
Not exactly, because you always have, once you worked with any firm, you can always switch. Once you have maybe even 1 year of experience, you will be able to switch.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, is there any course on IPR?
WIPO provides a course of 6 months, World Intellectual Property Organization. You go to the website of WIPO, you can go for IP courses. Even LEDX, I'm sure LEDX is also offering courses in IPR, right? If I'm not wrong.
But it is virtual. I'm asking about a physical form of courses.
Physical, then you will have to go for traditional diploma or certificate courses that different universities are providing.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you
Good afternoon,
name
ma'am.
some of the courses?
All
Which
national
could be
universities,
there?
they are providing different courses in not just IPR, any stream. I think even some private universities are also offering.
So
See, I
what
can't
all
recommend any course
areas of
here.
what kind of courses would be good for this field if we want to opt for?
For what? Which stream are you asking?
Which areas? I'm talking which areas of, like you said, this corporate restructuring, merger and acquisition. So which areas?
You go to website of different universities. There are certain short-term and long-term courses, credit courses. You can go to the government website also. There is Swayam, which offers a number of courses in different specialization streams.
Okay, ma'am.
And there are a number of platforms. LEDX is one such platform that provides courses.
Ma'am, and how to apply for internships in corporates like MNCs?
See, I need a lot of time to respond to your question because see, I have a database of law firms that I share with my students. So there are contact details, email IDs, and then we can. So we train students as to how they can prepare their CV, and then it is a lengthy procedure. See, I will not be able to respond to that question because I think the time is already up. Um, so
Yes.
you can apply. You need to have the contact details, and you just write, send your CV with a covering letter.
Okay, ma'am.
And there are some law firms like Try Legal. They have their fixed format. You need to respond to certain questions. They give you certain problems. You solve those problems based on which they provide internship.
Ma'am,
NLIU is
how
organized
to
by Try Legal
approach, ma'am?
Summit,
Is it
and
through
you
online or how, ma'am?
you need to keep yourself updated. You go to different organizations. Say, for example, we organize NLIU organizes a NLIU Try Legal Summit every year, and whoever presents the best paper, Try Legal gives internship to those students. Even foreign trips.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am, we need to mail for a trilegal internship, I think.
No, they have a fixed format. You need to respond to certain questions, and then this is how based on how you respond, you solve those problems. They give you internship
And where we will get these questions.
on their
Like,
website. You visit their website.
okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Ma'am,
I
I
have just
have an
one.
upcoming internship with a tier 1 law firm. Can you please suggest me something, or what should be my plan of action to grab a PPO, basically? Currently, I'm in my 4th year from IP University WIPS.
All right. Which firm are you going to work with?
Temfree and Sagar.
Okay. Have they specified any area specifically that you will be working in?
Trademarks.
Trademarks. So you go through the Trademark Act. I think that is more than enough. Once you know the laws, and they will be giving you certain assignments, and you know how the application of Trademark Act related provisions. I think that's what you should do as a student.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Just one question. Basically, I have experience of 3 years in litigation, and in the middle of that, I did my LLM in financial and regulations. So, what are the like? I want to like switch from litigation to corporate or some IBC laws, or because I studied IBC and companies laws, everything in my LLM. So, what are the few things which I need to keep in mind while switching from litigation to corporate or to some companies, basically?
See, for companies, if you're planning to work with a single company, you can simply sending your CV is the the only way. And you mentioned that you have so and so years of experience. So I think
Yes,
based on
ma'am.
your experience, you will be able to get a job in any company. But getting in a law firm is a little difficult for you now. The reason is that they generally recruit people who are already working in some other law firm, or
Right,
the freshers who apply to
right,
them.
right,
So
right.
you can apply to some company. That will be a better option for you.
Okay, sure. Thank you, ma'am.
I hope we are done with questions now because it is already almost 2.
Yeah.
And I think the
If the
organizers.
students show their interest, we can. Yeah, that's what I was saying. If the students show their interest, we can come up with an advanced class or a good series on, pinpointing details in every aspect of this
Right.
topic.
I think we can organize just an interactive session. Instead of me saying things, let students come up with their questions and I'll respond to their questions.
Yeah. We can plan for something like that in the future as well. And I guess we can conclude with today's session.
Or it was nice interacting with the students.
Uh, yeah. And thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
hope
Thank you very
students,
much.
a lot of doubts and a lot of doubts
Yeah,
and
and
a
the
lot of
problem is that
questions
we have
were
a time
answered.
restriction also. No, today
And
is Sunday, and then so because of the time restriction thing, and the time was supposed to be from 12:30 to 1:30. We are already almost half an hour
yeah,
late.
Almost half an hour exceeding the time limit.
How can we connect with the ma'am, sir?
I hope, I guess we can share the email ID ma'am was saying.
Yeah, I'll share the email ID. I'll write it in the
Yeah.
chat for you. So you can write to me, and we can also. I think we can have one more session if the students they look forward to interact.
Huh. We can have a more pinpointing to a particular topic in this umbrella. So we can also have a session on that as well.
All right then. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for joining, ma'am.
All right. So I'll disconnect now.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Bye.
Yeah, you can take a leave, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you for your time, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Bye.
Guys, do you have any other doubts, any other questions regarding certification or anything? I'll be sharing the email ID which ma'am has shared in the WhatsApp group as well.
Yeah, please.
Okay. And also, if you want to get the certification and the what we say recordings of this session, so you can just enroll for the same by paying rupees 99. I'll be sharing the link of that as well in the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Apart from that, we are also having another live class coming up. It's from 1st of February to 5th of February. The topic is cyber crime and cyber law and cybercrime litigation in India. So if you want, you can enroll for that as well. It will be a 5 days, 5 session live class. Okay. And also for those who are interested to, get another session with Krati ma'am on the same topic or, a more detailed version of this. So we'll be planning a live class on this topic as well, and we'll be updating this same in the official WhatsApp group of this workshop. So you can just, be in the group and look out for all the updates of the upcoming live classes and workshops that we have.
How can we connect to the WhatsApp group?
Any other question, guys? Okay, just give me a minute. I'll share the link of the WhatsApp group in the chat box. Just give me a minute. Guys, if you want to be updated with all the upcoming live classes and any workshops, free workshops, boot camps which are organized by LEDX, you can just join this one. It's the official WhatsApp group for this workshop. You can join this. We'll be sharing all the links to all the upcoming live classes and any event with that we have. I'm also sharing the link to the certification if you want to get the certificate, enroll for the certification and the recordings of this session. Here is the link. I'll be sharing the same link in the WhatsApp group. And also I'm sharing the link for the live class on cyber law and cybercrime litigation. So if anyone's interested, you can enroll for the live class. The live class will be starting from 1st of Feb. So only 2 days, and I guess limited seats are left for the live class. So if you're interested, you can sign up for the live class as well. It will be a 5 days, 5 sessions live class. Apart from that, if you have any query or want to reach out to us, the official number for the LEDX support, I'm sharing the number as well.
One more thing, Mr. Jha. Likewise, I've ordered for
Yes.
the certification and notes regarding this corporate law, for which I've already
Yes.
then submitted my address. So, till what time could I expect to receive it?
On that, most probably by Tuesday, you'll be receiving a mail. Okay.